The time is 1 p.m. We're back on record.
Miss Bass, have you ever traveled with Dorothy Malveaux?
No.
Have you ever gone on vacation with her?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about the bylaws. Which is Exhibit 3. And I'm going to ask you to read aloud subparagraph D of Section 1 of Article 6. As well as the first sentence of Section 1, Article 6, powers. You see that at the bottom of the page where it says powers?
Yes.
Could you read that sentence after that?
The association, by and through its board of directors, shall have the following rights and powers.
Thank you. And am I correct that that is part of the bylaws?
Yes.
Thank you. And then turning to paragraph D of Section 1 of Article 6, could you read subparagraph D aloud for us?
It's a D.
D as in dog.
Okay. Employ a manager and independent contractor of such other employees as they deem necessary, and to prescribe their duties and the terms of employment of services.
Thank you. During your time on the board, did Sterling Green's strike that, I'll start over. So the provisions you just read, they began with the one that said what the association can do by and through its board of directors. Or in other words, the association by and through its board of directors shall have the following rights and powers. And one of them is employing a manager or independent contractor or other employees as they deem necessary, and to prescribe the duties, their duties in the terms of their employment services. Did I summarize the provisions you read accurately?
Yes.
Okay. So, my question is, would it be accurate to say that the association, by and through its board of directors, exercised its right and powers to employ a manager by employing Dorothy Malveaux as manager?
Yes.
Okay. And then below that, in Section 2 of Article 6 of the bylaws, Section 2 lists the duties of the board of directors. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then would it be under subparagraph D, B as in boy, can you read for us the duties that are listed in that paragraph?
Supervise all officers, agents, and employees of this association, and to see that their duties are properly performed.
Okay, thank you. So would you agree then that under that provision of the bylaws, the association by and through its board of directors, while you're on the board, had a duty to supervise all of Sterling Green's officers, agents, and employees, and a duty to see that their duties were properly performed?
Yes, as stated here, yes.
And was that provision in effect while you were on the board?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have exhibit stickers? Did I miss? Oh, they're right here. I'm sorry. I'm going to mark as Exhibit 4 a document that says Sterling Green CIA Minutes of Board Meeting March 6, 2017 at the top. Ms. Bass, if you could take a look at Exhibit 4. Have you had a chance to review that exhibit?
Yes.
Have you seen that document before?
I may have, this is almost 3 years ago, so I'm not certain.
When you were on the board of directors, did you, as part of performing your work as a member of the board of directors, did you review minutes of Sterling Green member meetings?
The minutes were read at the meeting.
No, I'm just asking a more general question, or a different question. I'm just trying to find out if, during the time, that document in front of you, those are meeting minutes, correct?
Yes.
And my question is, while you were on the board of Sterling Green, did you occasionally review meeting minutes such as the one you have in front of you? Not that one in particular, but just that type of document.
Right, okay. When you say review,
Read.
did I read the minutes?
Not those minutes in particular,
no,
but
no,
just
I
minutes
mean
in
just-
general.
right.
Did you occasionally read minutes of Sterling Green member meetings?
Yes.
Okay. While you were on the board, who typed up meeting minutes?
They were typed up by someone in the office.
You don't know who?
No, I can't say specifically who typed them up, no.
Okay. Do you know who prepared that exhibit?
No, I don't.
Do you mean the board secretary? Who was the board secretary while you were on the board?
It would depend on what time period.
Okay. Who was the board secretary in 2017?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you ever serve as secretary?
No, I didn't.
Do you know what the duties specific to the position of secretary are?
Not right off the top of my head, no.
Okay. During member meetings, did anyone take notes that were later used in preparing the minutes?
Yes.
Who did that?
It was various people that was on the board.
And who were those people?
I'm not for sure.
Can you name any of them?
I could probably say myself.
Anyone else?
I'm not sure.
Were the persons who prepared the typewritten minutes under the supervision of Dorothy Malveaux?
Can you state that again?
Were the persons who prepared typewritten minutes, such as the one you have in front of you, employees of Sterling Green?
Yes, yes.
Did strike that? Would they have been persons working? Well, let me change the subject for a second. While you were on the board, Sterling Green had an office staff, correct?
Yes,
Did it have any other types of employees? Did it have maintenance employees?
yes,
So we have office employees and maintenance employees, is that correct?
yes.
Any other types of employees?
No, none that I'm aware of right now, no.
And Dorothy Malveaux was the manager for Sterling Green the entire time you were on the board, is that correct?
Yes,
And would it be accurate to say that the typewritten meeting minutes were prepared by employees of Sterling Green who worked in the office as opposed to maintenance employees?
yes,
And did all of the employees who worked in the office while you were on the board work under the supervision of Dorothy Malveaux?
yes,
Okay. And so those minutes would have been created by employees working under the supervision of Miss Malveaux.
yes.
Do you know whether Miss Malveaux herself ever prepared meeting minutes?
No, I don't.
Did any members of the office, any office employees, attend member meetings?
If they were homeowners,
Did any members of the office staff or the office manager attend member meetings in their capacity as employees for the purpose of taking notes?
no,
Did you ever see Miss Malveaux taking notes at member meetings?
I don't think so.
Were minutes for board meetings also prepared?
Yes,
Who prepared the minutes for board meetings?
they were also prepared in the office.
What employee, did you observe anyone at board meetings taking notes at board meetings?
Okay, was that someone on the board taking in? I'm sorry,
Either one, either board members or Sterling Green employees taking notes at board meetings.
employees, I'm sorry. Yes, it could have been anyone on the board could have been taking notes.
Well, I'm not asking who could have. I'm asking what persons you recall, the names of persons you recall observing, taking notes at board meetings.
I couldn't say.
Because you don't remember their names?
Well, no, it's not that I don't remember their names. It's that I don't know if they were taking notes for them to be typed up in the office or whether they were doing it for their own personal good. So
What do the
can't say
minutes
that.
contain?
What does the minutes contain?
What do minutes for a board meeting contain?
They should contain the items on the agenda and the discussion that was taking place.
And the disposition of the items on the agenda?
Yes.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, information has to be communicated from someone who attended the board meeting to someone working in the office regarding the events at the board meeting in order for the minutes of the board meeting to be typed up, correct?
Yes.
Do you know who transmitted that information?
No.
Do you know what are you familiar with a document called an agenda?
Yes.
What is an agenda?
The agenda is the items that you want to discuss in a meeting.
Who prepared the agenda?
That was also done in the office.
By an employee under the supervision of Ms. Malveaux or Ms. Malveaux herself?
Yes.
Am I correct that Ms. Malveaux served as office manager and as a member of the board of directors at times?
Yes.
Did you ever have occasion while you were on the board of directors to request the addition of an item to an agenda for an upcoming meeting?
I don't remember if I did or not.
If you wanted to add an item to the agenda for an upcoming meeting, what would you have done? Who would you have contacted?
The office.
Would you have contacted Ms. Malveaux?
Yes.
The exhibit you have in front of you, those are the minutes of a member meeting of March 6, 2017. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do those minutes indicate that an election was held? By the way, let me back up for a second. Elections for positions on the board of directors at Sterling Green were held in March of each year. Is that correct?
Yes.
The document you have in front of you indicates that at the member meeting of March 6, 2017, an election for positions on the board of directors was held, and that Malveaux received 18 votes for a position on the board, and that you received 14 votes, and Linda Toe, I may have that name wrong, received 14 votes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what's on the document.
Do you have any reason to dispute the accuracy of that document?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you remember earlier this morning when we were talking about it, quorums and member meetings?
Yes.
Now, is it true that when casting ballots in board of director elections, a person could vote for more than one candidate?
Yes.
But a person could also vote for, if they wanted to, they could vote for only one candidate.
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that since there were 3 candidates in that election, and they received 18, 14, and 14 votes, the highest number of ballots that could possibly have been submitted in that election would have been 46?
Objection form.
I have no idea how many ballots.
When we talked this morning about the quorum necessary for actions to be taken at member meetings, and the 10% requirement in the bylaws, do you remember that discussion?
Yes.
Would it be accurate to say that, and I think you also indicated this morning, that you would need at least 200 members present at a meeting in order for that meeting to take actions, including electing people to the board?
Objection 4.
I'm not sure of what you're asking me.
Well, when we addressed this issue this morning, I recall that you agreed that because the membership has always been, at least while you were on the board, at least 2,000 members, and you have a quorum requirement of 10%, and 200 is 10% of 2,000, that you would need at least 200 members at a meeting for that meeting to take action on behalf of the association.
Objection 4.
I'm not sure.
All right, well then we'll take that piece by piece. The membership of the association, the total membership would be at least 2,000 or so, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, yes.
And the quorum requirement in the bylaws for member meetings is 10%, correct?
Yes,
And 10% of 2,000 is 200, correct?
yes.
When it says in Article 3 of the bylaws, Section 4, the presence at the meeting of members entitled to cast or of proxies entitled to cast 1/10 of the votes of each class of membership shall constitute a quorum for any action except as otherwise provided in the Articles of Incorporation, the Declaration, or the bylaws. With regard to the phrase, a quorum for any action, would you agree that among the actions contemplated by that phrase is an election for the board of directors?
I'm sorry, I am thoroughly confused.
That's okay.
By that.
We've got all afternoon. At member meetings in which directors were going to be elected, was a quorum needed?
Yes, according to the bylaws, yes.
And were the bylaws a document that the association had to comply with?
Yes,
And so you had to have 1/10 of the members present at a meeting in order to elect people to the board of directors, correct?
Objection 4.
yes, but we were never informed by our legal counsel, who actually attended a lot of those meetings, that we had to have 1/10, because we usually would just take whatever ballots came in, and then the person with the highest number of votes.
Okay. At any point, were you, while you were on the board, was the board advised that the 1/10 quorum requirement had to be met in order to elect people to the board at any particular member meeting?
The only one that I know of was the election that came up it was March of 2019.
And what were you told at that time?
I don't remember exactly, but it was about the quorum and the number of homeowners or votes or the ballots, proxies.
And do you recall who provided you with that information?
Yes, that was Susan Rice.
Okay. And was that information provided verbally or in writing?
No, it was verbally at the homeowners meeting.
And did you, after receiving that information, arrive at the belief that you had to have 10% of the total number of members present at a member meeting in order for it to elect persons to the board of directors?
I didn't understand that they had to actually be there, but we could actually have their ballot or their proxy.
Do you know what a proxy is?
Yes,
What's a proxy?
that's where you give your voting right to someone else to vote in your place.
And do you believe that is permitted under the Sterling Green bylaws?
Yes, if it's done in order and proper.
Okay. Do you know the procedures that have to be followed in order for a proxy to be used?
No.
Okay. So, back to my original question. Would you agree with me that, putting aside the issue of what you knew or what you were told or when you were told it, would you agree with me that under the bylaws, you had to have 200 members present in person or by proxy at a member meeting in order to elect people to the board of directors?
Objection form.
Yes, according to the bylaws, yes.
Okay. Can you read back the last question and answer, please?
Would you agree with me, setting aside the issue, what you knew, what you were told, or when you were told it, would you agree with me that under the bylaws, you had to have 200 members present in person or by proxy at a member meeting in order to elect people to the board of directors? And the answer was yes, according to the bylaws, yes.
Do you remember the number of persons present at the March 2017 member meeting in which you were elected to the board of directors?
No.
Did you attend that meeting?
Yes.
Do you remember that meeting?
No.
You don't remember anything about it?
No.
Well, let me ask you this, before 2018, did you ever have 200 persons attend a members meeting?
No.
It was always less?
Yes.
And that would be, of course, in your time on the board of directors.
Yes.
So would you agree with me then that since there were never 200 persons present, and again, putting aside what you were told or when you were told it about quorum requirements, would you agree that you were never elected to the board of directors at a member meeting that had a quorum
Objection
as
4.
defined by the bylaws?
Objection 4.
No, I don't agree.
Why not?
Because, I say, at the time, we thought we were doing what was right. And so I can't go against something that I thought that we were doing right. And, and with bad legal advice.
Okay, I have to object as non-responsive. And I understand your conviction that you were acting in the right and you were not violating any bylaw intentionally. And in all honesty, as you know, there has been a series of disputes involving Sterling Green
Yes.
over the past year or two, and some of it has spilled into court. And I'll also say to you that there are the law actually recognizes that directors for nonprofit institutions when they're acting in good faith and in the manner they think is in the best interest of the association and reasonably, that counts for something. But again, I'm not asking you to admit that you did something you knew was wrong. I'm not asking you to admit that you disregarded what attorneys told you. You stated you think you received bad legal advice, and you've also stated you were not informed of the quorum requirements until, if I understand correctly, very late during your time, almost at the end of it, of the time when you were on the board. I understand that. But again, confining my question to just the bylaws and what the bylaws requirements are and what actually happened. If there was never a member meeting during your time you're on the board of directors before 2018 in which 200 persons attended, and 200 is required for a quorum, wouldn't I be correct in stating that prior to 2018, the elections for board members that occurred at member meetings never occurred in meetings with the required 200-plus person quorum?
Objection 4.
Okay, just one thing, you say during the time that I was on the board?
Right.
That No, as I stated before, there was never 200 people at a meeting.
But that's my point, is I'm trying to confirm, there were meetings held while
Yes.
you're on the board of directors, and none of those member meetings were there 200 members present. It was always a lower number, correct?
Yes,
And we've also agreed that the quorum, given the total number of units is in excess of 2,000, the quorum was always at least 200. And what I'm just trying to confirm is that, well, no one meant any harm, or at least you didn't mean any harm, you didn't intentionally set out to violate a provision of the bylaws. Would you agree with me that looking back on it now, it's now clear to you that because there was this quorum requirement that works out to 200 or more, that the quorum requirement was not met with regard to those meetings while you're on the board in which directors were elected?
Objection 4.
yes,
So my statement's correct.
I think according to the bylaws now and what we read, I would have to say yes.
Okay. And then you were also elected to the board at the March 2015 March board meeting.
The March 5th, March
You know, before you,
2015.
yeah, before you even answer that, let me withdraw the question and I'll give you an exhibit. I'm going to have marked as exhibit, I guess this is 5. It is the annual HOA meeting Board of Directors election ballot tally sheet, March 2nd, 2015. Have you had a chance to review the document?
Yes,
Does that document indicate there were 52 ballots cast at the 2015 election?
yes, that's what it states at the bottom.
And does it indicate the candidates and the votes each received?
Yes.
What does it say?
Dorothy Malveaux, 47. Excuse me. Linda Bass, 43. Lena Toe, 39. Joseph Hawkins, 1. And Gail Fritz, 1.
Thank you. Would you agree with me on the number you just read, that there were not 200 ballots cast at that election?
Yes.
And you've already stated before, in light of what you stated before about the number 200, would you agree with me that there were less than 200 members present at this March 2nd, 2015 meeting?
Objection 4.
Yes, I've answered that. Yes, there's less than 200.
Okay, thank you. Who was the custodian or the person who handled the ballots that were submitted for the elections in 2015, 16, and 17?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, now I'm going to ask you some questions about meetings of the Board of Directors. While you were on the board, did you attend meetings of the Board of Directors?
Yes, I did.
Did you did you operate under the view that you should always attend when possible, as long as,
Sorry.
I'll rephrase, while you were on the board, did you operate under the impression that you should always attend Board of Director meetings when possible?
Yes.
Okay. How often were Board of Director meetings held while you were on the board?
There was a meeting each month, the first Monday of the month.
What is the purpose of a Board of Directors meeting?
It was to give the homeowners information.
You remember before when we were looking at the section of the bylaws on the duties of the Board of Directors?
Yes.
Did the meetings also occur as part of the attempt by the Board of Directors to carry out its duties as defined by the bylaws?
Okay. Can you please say that over
Yes,
again?
I'll
Okay.
rephrase it.
Okay.
You would agree with me that under the bylaws, the Board of Directors had certain duties.
Yes, yes.
And while you were on the board, the meetings of the Board of Directors, one of the purposes they served was helping the board carry out its duties under the bylaws.
Okay, you say helping the board carry out the duties.
Does the Board of Directors have duties under the bylaws?
Yes.
Did the meetings help the board carry out its duties?
Oh, I'm sorry, did the meetings?
Yes.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Did you find the meetings to be helpful?
Sometimes.
And sometimes they were not helpful.
Right.
When they were not helpful, why was that?
Because of friction.
And would it be accurate to say that during the first several years on the board, there was not friction, but in the later years, there was friction?
Yes. Excuse me.
When board members would cast votes at board meetings, correct?
Yes, if we had something to vote on, yes.
And when they voted, did they announce verbally how they were voting? Did they cast ballots, written ballots?
Oh, no, just verbally.
And so you would know how other board members were voting.
Yes.
And so there were several years where both you and Dorothy Malveaux were on the board.
Yes.
During your time on the board, did you and Dorothy generally vote the same way on matters that were presented to the board for a vote?
It depended on what the item was.
Do you recall having any differences with Dorothy Malveaux and how the association should be run?
Not specifically, I don't think. No.
How about generally?
I can't really think of anything offhand right now.
Okay. Do you know what executive meetings of the board are?
Yes.
What are executive meetings?
That was when the board of directors would, they would adjourn after the open meeting, and we would get together and would discuss items.
And was the purpose of executive meetings to discuss items that should not be discussed at an open meeting?
Yes,
And if I understand correctly, open meetings means they're open to members.
yes.
Okay. So my question is, what subjects, let me rephrase it, were there subjects that could only be addressed at executive meetings?
I'm not aware.
Well, I guess I'm wondering what the purpose of the executive meetings was.
Oh, well, sometimes you couldn't discuss items in front of the HOA members because you wouldn't want them to know the name, the identity of another homeowner, because you would have to keep that private.
So, for example, if the board was going to vote on deciding whether to foreclose or authorize attorneys to foreclose on a home for late assessments, is that the sort of thing that would be only occur in an executive session?
Yes,
And perhaps the termination of an employee?
yes.
Are there other types of issues that were to be addressed only in executive board meetings?
I can't think of anything offhand right now.
Do you know what did the board rely on some document that told it when it could hold what subjects had to be addressed only in executive meetings as opposed to meetings open to Sterling Green members?
No, I'm not aware of a document.
Do you know who decided whether to address a matter in an executive meeting or in a public meeting?
Sometimes it would be Dorothy, or if something, I guess, would come up, in the office, and that would be addressed.
I'm sorry, could you read back the last answer? And by Dorothy, you mean Dorothy Malveaux.
Yes.
And I think I may have gotten this wrong. Were decisions about foreclosures to be addressed and voted on by the board only at public meetings or only at executive meetings?
No, that would have been possibly at executive meetings, but I don't ever remember voting on anything like that.
Okay. And the board was required to provide notice to members in advance of board of director meetings, correct?
I'm not sure.
Was it required to provide members with an agenda describing the items that would be addressed at an upcoming board of directors meeting?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Would it be accurate to say that in general, we looked at that document this morning, the agenda, do you remember that?
Yes.
With agendas in general, with regard to those documents, that type of document, in the context of a homeowners association meeting or board of directors meeting, do you know what the statutory requirements applicable to agendas are?
No.
Did the board of directors ever consider hiring a management company to manage the affairs of the association?
No.
Can a board of directors meeting for the balance of the deposition, I may forget to say this in preface to any question, but my questions are all concerned Sterling Green Community Improvement Association during the time you were on the board. Sometimes I may forget to say that, but please assume that that's what the question concerns.
Okay.
With regard to Sterling Green and your time on the board, based upon your time on the board, do you know whether a board of directors meeting could address items that were not listed in the agenda that was published in advance for that board meeting?
No, I don't think so.
So my statement, okay, so just to clear this up, if a board of directors meeting is scheduled, and it's a meeting that the members can attend,
Okay.
during your time on the board, would an agenda have been published in advance of the board meeting listing the items on the agenda, the items to be addressed at the meeting?
No.
Do you know whether there was anything in the Texas statutes or the Sterling Green bylaws that required an agenda be issued in advance of board of directors meetings listing the items that were going to be addressed at the meeting?
No.
So you don't know one way or the other?
No, I don't know.
Okay. How many, during your time on the board of directors, how many employees did the Sterling Green have on average? You could provide a range if you want.
You mean the office staff plus the is it maintenance?
Yes.
I would say maybe about 7, I guess.
Okay. And Dorothy Malveaux would have supervised those employees.
Yes.
Did she also supervise outside vendors such as security companies that provided services to Sterling Green?
Yes.
So I think earlier we talked about Article 6 of the bylaw, Section 2, Paragraph A, that provides that the board shall supervise all officers, agents, and employees of the association and see that their duties are properly performed. My question is, what steps did the board take to ensure that Dorothy Malveaux was performing her duties as association manager properly?
Dorothy would inform the board as to different aspects of things that were going on with the employees, or things that was going on with the homeowners. And then she would get our input as to the way that it should be handled.
And so Dorothy made statements to the board about what was going on.
Yes, she would inform us as to what was going on.
Okay, and so my question is, when she made statements to the board about what was going on with the association, did the board take any steps to verify the truth of the statements she made to it?
Okay. Verify, we would, yeah, I'm not sure about verifying.
So would the answer be, you don't know what the board did to verify the statements she made to the board?
I'm not
Objection
sure.
4.
Let me ask you this, can you provide an example of the board taking steps to verify the truth of statements made to the board by Dorothy Malveaux regarding the affairs of the association?
No.
Okay. Did Ms. Malveaux have an office at, well, let me back up for a second. There is a Sterling Green office, and it's located in a building, is that correct?
Yes.
And that building has an address in Houston,
Yes.
and Sterling Green accepted mail at that address.
Yes.
And the employees reported to that address when they came to work.
Yes.
And did the board, and this is all in a building of some kind,
Yes.
can you describe the building?
It's an office building that has a playground, that has a swimming pool.
The building itself, how many floors is it?
It's a single story.
Does it have a room where the member meetings occurred?
It used to, and it was too small. So now the meetings are being held outside.
When did they start holding the meetings outside?
Well, it depended on how many people would show up. And if the room that we were using was too small, then the meetings had to go outside.
When did they first start holding meetings outside?
I don't remember an exact date.
Was there a time while you were on the board of directors when they only held meetings inside?
Yes.
And does the room where they held these meetings still exist?
Yes.
And what's in that room now?
I couldn't say because I haven't been there in a while.
When you were in that room for the last time, when was that?
I couldn't give you an exact date.
2017? 2018?
It was possibly 2017, maybe.
What was in that room the last time you were in it?
There was a desk type table with chairs, and then there were single chairs.
Could that room accommodate 50 people?
No.
Were association records stored on the premises?
Yes.
And where on the premises were they stored?
There was a room in the office that had file cabinets.
Was there a name for that room?
No, not that I'm aware of.
While you were on the board of directors, did you ever go into that room to review documents?
No.
Do you know if you had the right to do that as a member of the board of directors?
Yes. I'm sure I did, but I never did.
Do you know what the term fiduciary duty means?
Not exactly, no.
Do you have a general understanding of what the term fiduciary duty means?
Yes, I think, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Do you have a suspicion as to what it means?
I'm not going to speculate.
We've been going for about an hour.
Okay.
About time for break unless you want to finish this line of questioning.
Time is 2:02 PM. We're off record.